So I wrote this crazy book. It's called If I'm Waiting on God, Then What Am I Doing in the Christian Chat Room? Confessions of a Do-It-Yourself Single. Because I believe that being single is not a terminal disease. Do you hear me, married people? Stop throwing the purr beats when we turn 30, okay? Every year I had a birthday, the church ladies come over with like soup and they're like, another year is past, and they're crying. I'm like, what's wrong? They're like, you're old, you know? And I'm like... It was just my own personal Bridget Jones story. And I never set out to have any kind of story. I moved to LA with a goal and a dream. Marry Matt Damon, win an Academy Award, right? You gotta have a goal and a dream. And I told the Lord my dream. I said, Lord, when I win my Academy Award, I will totally say your name. And he was like, oh, thank you, Kerri, because I need the PR, you know. I didn't part the Red Sea. And so God is funny. Like, they don't have comedy clubs. They just watch us, you know. And so he let me get what I thought I wanted. And I was on some really good shows, biblical shows. Young and the Restless, General Hospital, Port Charles. You better not recognize me, all right? You wouldn't recognize me because I was Nurse Kathy, the mute nurse, because I never had any lines. And, well, I did have lines, but they would cut them, so I told my mother my character was mute. And, but I did the Tonight Show and sitcoms, and it was so funny. My very first Tonight Show, you want to talk about the Lord? I'm in my dressing room. Who's in the dressing room next door? Sliding door, Matt Damon. Woo! And that's when I learned the words restraining order. And, because I was being proactive, and he did not hear from the Lord the way I did. And apparently neither had Ben Affleck, but I was like, I'm willing to wait on you, and so I did, because I was just, but the thing is, I was doing the Hollywood stuff, and I was like, I am hot, and my mother has things to brag about at Bridge, and all the girls that were mean to me in high school want to be my friend, so I have made it, and my picture was in the post office in Georgia, and so, you know, we've made it, and so sad, so true. And so the thing is, I'm sitting in Hollywood one night, and they brought these Christian actors in. Christian actors from London, because we had to bust them in. And they're talking, and my mom was a Christian mom, and my dad was a Christian dad, and they prayed, and I had a mixed upbringing, very scandalous. Yankee, Italian, Catholic man marries Southern Protestant Presbyterian woman. Send the kids to Dutch Christian Reform School, all right? So I knew my verses, and I knew you had to go to church unless there wasn't a parking space, and then, you know, to go. But you have to feel really guilty for 6 days. So, and you do it all over. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I heard these people, and these were real Christians, because I knew the difference, because they said the word Jesus. And see, I would be like, oh, I'm God, I go to church. And they're like, we love Jesus, and we love the art of acting, and we love this. And I knew that they had it. And I knew that my whole life, I never had it. But I could talk it, and I looked good. Because I did enough not to get me in trouble. I did enough to, you know, just get through college, being the good girl. Like, as long as I was sober, I was fine, you know. And, which is hard when you go to a Big Ten school. But, I did, but I knew that I didn't have it. You know what I mean? I had the Bible. It was highlighted from the 3rd grade. It was under the bed. I went to church. When my mother's like, did you go to church? You go to church, right? But the thing is, I didn't have it. And I knew it. But I didn't want to really get it, because as soon as I got Jesus in my heart, I knew what was going to happen. The Lord was going to take everything away from me and send me to Africa or somewhere hot, you know? My biggest fear. And I was like, and then I'm going to have to do manual labor, and I don't want to break a nail. And true. And so, but I knew it was time. I just was like, I don't remember the certain prayer that I'm supposed to pray, but I was like, hey, God. He's like, yeah. I'm like, it's Kerri. And he's like, yeah, I know, remember? I'm God. And I was like, hey, what's up? And all I did was I just prayed, God, it's me and I'm done. And if you want to take my career and you want to take my life, I'm ready. Like, I'm just unhappy, because I really was. Nobody knew that I was unhappy, but I was, like, inside. It looked good on the outside, and I just wasn't there with God. And I was like, whatever you want, I'll do. And so I knew that my acting career was gone. And I asked him, I said, can I still please be an actress? But I wasn't used to hearing from God or anything. I knew the answer was no. I knew it was buy a shovel, learn to make soup, and go somewhere hot. And so I was prepared to suffer in the name of Jesus. And here's the funny thing, nothing happened. I went back to Hollywood, living my life. A couple weeks later, I got invited to a little tiny church because they had potluck dinners. And I was like, okay, I'll go. And this little tiny church, Hawaiian church down by the beach, Redondo Beach. I walk in, don't know anybody there, except my one friend, and these people are like this. And they're singing, and there's a screen. And I'm like, is this a Lakers game? Like, what's up, you know? And I'd never seen anything because I was raised Catholic, you know, and we did our hymns and stuff. And so I go in there, and I heard this singing, and it was unlike any singing I'd ever heard. It was kind of cool. It was kind of rock out, right? And all of a sudden, I get in the pew, and I started crying. I just started crying, tears going down my face. Have you guys ever walked in a room or a church or something, you know, Christian, you got dragged there, probably like tonight, and you know who you are too. And you walk in and you're like, this is weird. Am I having a breakdown? What's going on with me? I listened to this sermon. I stayed awake for the whole thing. First. And it was good. And I came back the next Sunday, and the pastor remembered my name. And I started crying again, and I looked down in this little church, and I promise you there was Kleenex in the aisles. I'm like, they know I'm coming, you know. And all I did was show up. Just show up every Sunday, and every Sunday I got a little bit more into it. And then these people started loving on me, and they invited me to this very exclusive thing called a small group, because if you're super Christian, you go twice. And if you had asked me back then, and remember there was a time in church I was talking about heaven, and if you had asked me if I was going to heaven, I would have said, I hope so, if I get in. Because I thought heaven was like some exclusive LA club, and only the really good people that don't screw up get in. Because I was raised with the good, you know, Italian family and those good Christian values, guilt and intimidation. You know what I'm talking about? They were like, if you have sex or anything close to it, not only will you die, you will burn in the eternal fires of hell forever. Now, kindergarten's going to be great, you know. And, it's my family, and I was scared. But they started teaching me, and I started hearing about the Bible. They had Bibles in the church. That was new, too. We read the Bible in the church, and I started remembering these verses from the time I was a little girl. And I started realizing that there was a Jesus, and he did walk the earth, and he was real. Now, I knew all that in my head, but I was starting to get it in here that he was still around, and he still cared about me. But I had all these, you know, issues, or as I like to call them, prayer requests now. But, you know what I'm talking about? Because I realized that we don't go to therapy. Small group, it's the same thing. And, you know what I mean? Because my mom's like, it's not gossip if your head is bowed. So, oh, that's just the Presbyterian. But anyway, but what they taught me was, they were like, Kerri, God doesn't care what you did last summer. God doesn't care what you did last weekend. God cares where you are right now. God cares where you are tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. And I finally got it in here, because I'd been carrying around all this baggage with me. I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to marry one of those godly men. I'm not good enough to show my face in this church after what I was partying at the club last night on Saturday. But for whatever reason, and I think it was because I had a praying mother, so moms don't stop praying, I kept getting myself up, and I kept going on Sunday mornings, and things started to change. I moved down to that little church. I bought a Hawaiian shirt and a hammock, and I got really changed. I didn't know what was happening. I just know there was a woman in Georgia who never stopped praying.